All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Daily doing my preview and prediction for the Quick Lane Bowl between New Mexico State and Bowling Green. Falcons 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 48. Monday, December 26th, right after Christmas, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, live from Ford Field. And this is the first meeting ever between these two schools. Quick little episode today. New Mexico State, this offense certainly a lot better than it's been in recent years. About 26 points per contest, 325 yards per game. They don't really throw the ball that well. Diego Pavia got the starting job this year, 52%, 1,283 yards, 5 picks, 11 touchdowns. He's also ran for 443 and 6 scores. Most of this offense, a lot of the production comes from the ground, 155 yards per game. Rushing, Star Thomas leads the way, 472 with 5 touchdowns. 4.7 yards per carry, and then Pavia right behind him. He, of course, his 443, and then Jamani Jones, 368 and 6 touchdowns. So they're not over the top in terms of production. I do think that, they're certainly, again, a lot better than they've been in recent years, where they would have, did anything to have 155 yards on the ground. So I definitely think that's the strong part of their offense. Justice Powers, 21 yards per reception. Powers, Cordell David, Jonathan Brady all have 19 receptions exactly. All 3 of them have 260-plus yards. Bryce Childress, 15 for 211 right behind them. So this is not really a deep offense in terms of talent by any means. The offensive line, I think, has been a quite surprising unit for them, led by center Cannon Yarrow, having a great year, especially as a pass blocker, certainly where he's been his best. This offensive line, though, don't give up too many negative plays. Pass protection, I think, has been very solid as well for the Aggies. Looking at the Bowling Green offense, that's kind of disappointed this year. I thought it would be a lot better. Matt McDonald, 2,600 yards, 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions for him. 24 points per game. That's certainly a number that I was not expecting. I thought it would be a lot higher because they returned a lot of experience on this football team, especially on offense. The backfield was very youthful. Last year's nothing but freshmen, so all these guys are sophomores, of course. Jason Patterson, 560 yards on 129 attempts, 1 touchdown. Only 8 rushing touchdowns for this offense. That's, one of the worst in college football. Their offensive line is not great, 116th in sacks allowed, so they're certainly towards the bottom in a handful of these categories. They do have 5 players with 25-plus receptions, so that's certainly, unlike New Mexico State, this is an offense that has a pretty deep group of pass catchers. Christian Sims, I like him at tight end, 41 grabs, 402 yards. Good for a first down per grab. Tyrone Broden, 6 touchdowns, 473 yards and 30 receptions. Then Hilaire, he has 54 grabs for 704 yards and 6 touchdowns of his own. And then C.J. Lewis, he's been around a long time, man. He's been here since it seems like forever. 2018 was his first year. He's another guy who's a solid weapon, 6'3", 215. Production has not been that great this year, but he's certainly a respectable contributor when he gets involved. Again, though, this offense, not all that great in terms of, holding up front. Only 101 yards per game on the ground. McDonald, 2,600 yards, 22 touchdowns for an offense that puts up 24 points per game is actually a pretty good number. But they don't seem to execute the way they should for some of these numbers they have at pass catcher, for some of the guys they have, for some of the experience they have, especially at quarterback. They're not putting up the numbers you would anticipate. Look at the Mexico State defense they're playing, 24 points per game. You talk about the offense being very poor. This defense certainly has improved. They were just awful. For the last couple of years, they've just not been very good. Last year, gave up 40 points per contest. Got that number down significantly, down to 24. 340 yards per contest allowed. 155.8 rushing yards per game allowed, kind of on par with their offensive number running the football. Chris Ojai at linebacker, 101 tackles, 10.5 TFL, 5 sacks. Lazarus Williams up front, 7.5 sacks, another 9.5 tackles for loss. Safety Bryce Jackson, he's been great in all assets. He's a really good run defender, he's a good tackler, and he's also strong in coverage. 60 tackles for him this year. Those are 3 players that are pretty outstanding for this defense. They don't force many turnovers, only 12. But I still think this is a defense that's playing, its best football in recent memory, 13th in FBS against the pass. And that's Bowling Green's best shot of winning this game, is throwing the ball through the air. And of course, their offensive line is not very great, though. So I think this is a pretty good matchup for New Mexico State. They do have 27 sacks, which is, a good number, I would say. They had 19 last year. Chris Ojai led them there, and he's back again doing it for them. So this is a leader in the middle of their defense. It's been doing a lot of good things for them. I think for the Bowling Green defense, this is a unit I'm pretty sure got back a double-figure amount of starters. They've just not been all that great together as a unit. Carl Brooks, one of the best defensive ends in college football, might opt out for this. I believe he's trending towards being a day 2 selection in the draft, so I think he might not play. But I do think if he does, he's certainly going to be a big-time impact performer. 18 tackles for loss, 10 sacks. I believe PFF has him graded as the highest defensive end this year in college football. Darren Anders, he's been around a long time, 69 tackles, 4 pass breakups. Unlike the Aggies, this is a defense that forces turnovers, 13 fumbles. That's more than New Mexico State has in total takeaways at all, so that's certainly very important. I think Jordan Anderson's having a very strong season. Where can New Mexico State take advantage of this defense is probably the biggest thing. They're respectable at running the football. The offensive line, I think, has been a good unit for them. They're facing a run defense that's been, a little inconsistent. It hasn't exactly been terrible, 4.2 yards per attempt allowed. It's, a little bit worse than it was last year, which certainly was not expected. But they've had, spurts of success. There's a 3 or 4 game stretch here, in October where they were actually doing pretty well against the run despite giving up 280 against Buffalo, though. They've certainly had their struggles. And, 201 against Kent State in a blowout loss. And they weren't exactly all that great against Ohio. They did give up 188 on 54 touches, which is actually, pretty good efficiency rate for your defense. They'd give up 4 touchdowns on the ground in a blowout loss there. Final thoughts and prediction on this one. I don't think anyone really cares about this bowl game. No one's going to watch it. But I think this is going to be a very close game. Defenses are going to reign supreme in this one. New Mexico State, they're going to lean on a better-than-average defense. They're really good against the pass, and that's really what's going to favor them in this game. I think the pass rush is going to get home more often than not. And biggest key for Bowling Green, though, is just find that passing attack versus that stiff secondary. And if they can do that, that's going to be the matchup. Whoever wins that should win this game 9 times out of 10. I'm going to take New Mexico State, though. I think they're going to win that matchup more often than not in the back end. Just really because the offensive line, I think, is really going to struggle as well. When you got a battle line going against a good secondary, it's just not a good combo one bit. New Mexico State, 24-20 is a prediction for me here in the Quick Lane Bowl from Detroit. Again, a game no one really probably cares about, but, if you're not doing anything after Christmas Day, this is going to be a pretty good game to tune into. So that's me for today's episode, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.